Hey everybody, good evening. It's just the average preppers. Tonight we're going to talk about fire starters. There's many videos out there that talk about the different types of fire starters and what would be good on doomsday or when the stuff hits the fan. But we're going to talk particularly about these types of fire starters, the process to make them, and how good really are they. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to my favorite prepper number one, my girlfriend, and she's going to go through the beginning process. And then towards the end of the video, we're going to light each one of these up and see which one lasts the best. Number one.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to start with is what are we going to use to soak the cotton in that's going to make it last longer? Because if you just burn plain cotton, it's really not going to burn that long. So what we're going to do is we're going to melt some wax. So I like to burn wax warmers in my house because they smell good. But, there comes a time where the smell either dissipates or you just want to change it up or whatever. So I always tend to have these extra pieces of wax laying around. And these are really super handy. Or, the bottom of a candle that just has a little bit of wax left in it, then rather than just throwing it away, save the wax, because you can do stuff like this, and this stuff works amazing. Also to keep in your backpack for camping trips or anything like that. So
I want to say one thing before we go any further. Ladies and gentlemen, do not think that this is a slice of onion that's in a plastic container, Gladlock zip bag or something like that, because I thought it was at first. But this is definitely a wax container that came from what she said that she burned earlier, and I thought it was a small piece to an onion. So keep that in mind. It can be deceiving, that color.
Kind of looks shape. Like a piece of cheese too.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so I have this little metal tin that has a pour spout. It's really easy for some projects that I have, so just take that and put the wax in here. It was really warm from already being in my hand, so I can just squeeze it. But you just put the wax in there, let it melt. It doesn't matter if you mix wax together. I do have to say though, wax like Party Light wax or Yankee Candle wax, those waxes are they're made to not have, they have a really high flash point, so they don't tend to catch on fire as good as plain wax, or I guess I don't want to say lower quality, but just different wax. They put stuff in their wax to make it safe for kids, so those ones just don't burn as well. So now we're just gonna let the wax melt a little bit. Well, actually, we're gonna let it melt completely. So what we're gonna experiment with is a bunch of different types of cottons. So we have Q-tips, we have flat cotton pads, we have regular cotton balls. These are actually tampons. These are the same exact tampons, except for I just pulled these ones apart to aerate the cotton a little bit, because if you ever feel a tampon, they're really super dense and thick, so we don't know how well that's going to catch on fire. So I know that extra oxygen will lead to better fire, so I just loosen these up. And the reason I have two of each one of them is because we're going to test it out to where one has wax and one doesn't have wax. These Q-tips, yeah, I suppose we only need two. So we're also going to do, as you can see right here, this is a flaming hot Cheeto. So we've heard in other videos and on Pinterest and stuff that you can use Cheetos and Doritos as fire starters in an emergency situation. So we're going to test those out. Also, we're going to put one in wax and see how it does, and then we're just going to leave one plain.
Now the interesting thing about those Cheetos, believe it or not, is when you burn them, this may sound goofy, but I'm being honest with you all. When you burn them, if you decide to get hungry and you want to eat a Cheeto after you burn it and there's a flame, mysteriously it tastes like a burnt marshmallow. I don't know what that is. Try it. I promise you. We've had several people try and they all say, yeah, there is a marshmallow burnt similarity to it. So So in this episode, what we're going to do, because it'll run long, is we're going to teach you how to make fire starters with wax for each of these. And we ask you to join us afterwards. We'll submit a subsequent video that shows how well each one of these 6 items do. Now I know there's more than 6, but there's 3 sets of 2 pairs. So how each of these 6 items do, we're going to burn them. So join us for that later on. But right now we're teaching you how to prepare these fire starters. So I'll turn it back to number 1 because she's getting pretty excited about wanting to start this whole process because the wax is already melting.
Yep, the wax is fully melted. As you can see inside the container. Right here I'm using parchment paper because it doesn't stick. The wax doesn't stick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take one of each piece of type of cotton.
And of course the Cheeto.
And of course the Cheeto. So I'll do the Cheeto last because, you know, I don't know. So what you want to do, I just take a pair of metal tongs, and you don't want to, what we're going to do is we're going to dip the cotton into the wax, and you don't want to dip it all the way to completely saturate the wax because you want a little piece of cotton to be left, and that way it catches fire easily. But then the wax is so it will stay lit longer. So what I'm doing is I'm just dipping it in here, leaving about a ½ an inch or so at the top that doesn't have any wax on it. I had this turned up pretty high just to get the wax melted, so I'm going to turn it down now because it'll stay melted. So then you just lay it on the wax paper, or the parchment paper. And
as you can see with this one, she has 3 of the 5 little cotton areas waxed. So and now she's taking the cotton ball.
Taking a cotton ball and doing the same thing. Now cotton balls will soak up a lot of wax really fast. So you just kind of tap it against the thing, stick it on there. Remembering to try to do your best to leave extra cotton at the top. Now we're going to do the tampon that's been pulled apart. So I'm just going to take this and dip it in the wax. Oh, it's actually bubbling. That's very interesting. Dip that and leave it there. Now we're going to take the one that hasn't been pulled apart and dip it in the wax. Let it absorb some wax, and it's bubbling really a lot too. I don't know if you can see that, but that's quite interesting. Probably all the air getting sucked up into the cotton. So we'll leave that one, and then we're gonna do a Q-tip. So Q-tips, those will be easy because you can just dip both ends because there's a cotton wrapper. We use the Q-tips that are made of cardboard or cotton right there in the center, because the plastic ones, you know, that would suck and probably not burn very well. So now we're gonna do the Cheeto and just dip it in there really quick. As long as it has wax on it, that's fine. I just don't want it to sit in the wax too long. I don't know, I guess if you're trying to burn it, it probably won't matter.
So as you can see, we have our set of items here completely covered with wax, or semi-covered with wax, and then we have our ones that are not covered with wax. And so what our experiment next will be is to see how well not only each one of these burn against each other, but also how well they burn against ones that are covered with wax, ones that aren't covered with wax. So as you can see, it's simple to do. It's something that is probably necessary for all preppers, and we ask you,
hikers in general.
And hikers,
they're really good for backpacks too if you're heading out for the trail overnight, or even just to be prepared, because you never know when you might get stuck or what. Or
you may need it. Good, you know, stormy night knocks out your electricity and you need something to start off a fire. So join us at the next episode where we talk about how well they burn against each other. This one was to show you how to prepare them with wax, which was quick and simple. You can do this with multiple cotton items, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you, and have a good evening. This is the Average Preppers. We'll talk to you later. Bye.